Members' order. It's time for questions to the Minister for Regional Development. And for the first time, we will have topical questions to the Minister. These will last for up to 15 minutes. And we will then move to deal with questions that appear on the oral question list. I will call members who were successful in the topical question ballot in order in which they have been listed. Only the member listed will be allowed a supplementary to his or her question. Other members should not stand, as they will not be called. I remind members the normal rules and conventions apply to topical questions, and I would ask them to study the ruling that I issued last week. However, I would like to be able to chair the first few sessions with a light hand as possible, and I think it's important I say that until we get a feel for the new arrangements in the House. So I would ask members very much for their cooperation. I would hope that members will make good use of topical questions and that they will bring some life to question time here in the House. And also, let me say to the whole House, it is another way of holding ministers to account within their own departments. And before we move on, perhaps I should also wish the Minister of Regional Development well, as he is the first Minister up for topical questions. But I have to say, I am sorry to say that the members whose name came out first on the list has withdrawn it. And I would hope that this will not set a pattern. I would ask whips to ensure that this does not happen in the future. And let me say to the House, this is an issue for whips. Members are going to put in either questions, either in oral form or topical questions, and then decide to withdraw their name. Does not go all well for the future. So I would just remind whips of their responsibility. So the first name that has been withdrawn, sad to say, is Chris Hazzard. And we move on now, and I call William Irwin. Mr. Irwin.
Yeah. The continued uncertainty on the A5 road project has created great concern, particularly amongst farmers who stand to be negatively affected by the work carried out. While Darden Road Service have recently asked farmers to update their agricultural impact assessments, many of those affected believe that the process does not afford them the open and transparent basis on which to thoroughly illustrate the overall impact of the proposed project on their business. And many farmers believe that their views are simply being ignored within the quarters of DRD. Can the Minister indicate whether he will undertake a comprehensive review of the process used for conducting the A5 agricultural impact assessments to alleviate those concerns and give a voice to farmers affected by the project?
The Minister maybe rises to answer the question. Topical questions or oral questions should not be statements. Should not be statements. And I do say that. I do say order. I do say that very firmly. And also, it should be one inquiry to the Minister. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I really do feel the hand of history today as being the first recipient of topical questions, and what will be more interesting will be if there's any topical answers given. But I suppose I was rather puzzled that Mr. Hazzard had withdrawn his. Hopefully, the question was withdrawn because of the member's unavailability rather than his ability to come up with a topical question. But apart from that, we'll attempt to progress that. I know that the A5 issue is among the standard questions, the listed questions for later in the question time. But I am happy to take and address the concerns raised by Mr. Irwin. This is a red letter day for Newry and Armagh constituency to have me answer the first priority question posed by a member from my own constituency. The member will know, of course, that the A5 scheme is not abandoned. It is a delayed scheme. That we continue to work through, and important work has begun on the appropriate assessment process. That work will be subject of public consultation and perhaps at a later stage public inquiry. I'm aware of concerns, and indeed I've had some contact from the Ulster Farmers Union and correspondence from a number, I have to say, of affected landowners. I'm looking closely at that and have agreed with my officials to instigate a review of the current procedures. We'll attempt to do that, and we'll do that as quickly as possible and seek to make progress on it.
Sure.
What certainty can the Minister give farmers that their views will be taken on board if the project goes ahead?
Well, the uncertainty around the project has been that of the legal challenges in and around it. I remind the member that the scheme itself remains an executive priority scheme, clearly supported by his own party at this stage, unless it's on another U-turn. But the important thing would be that we will take on board meaningful points of concern that individual farmers may have, and landowners indeed, and that's where in the business of. I regard myself as a listening minister and will seek to proceed on that basis.
Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, can you confirm that the Knockmore-Antrim train link is actually physically closed, and can you also confirm that health and safety checks are carried out on a regular basis, as was promised when that was originally taken off the network?
I'm grateful to the member for his topical question, and he will indeed know, and perhaps be in some part referring to the recent rail inquiry that was necessary as a result of an incident on that particular line. Can I say that I welcome very much the publication of that report. There are 5 recommendations contained within it, and I would want to indicate that I'm supportive of those, and I want to see those implemented as quickly as possible. Safety remains the key priority on all our transport routes, whether it's by rail or by bus, or by bicycle, or any other mode of transport. The important thing is that safety is the critical issue, and I, as Transport Minister, am pleased with the record levels of people using rail, particularly in Northern Ireland, record levels since 1967. I had the privilege of being at the Titanic slipways on Saturday night to hear Phil Coulter and others, Catherine Jenkins, in a very impressive concert, very well, a great concert, and Phil played for us Puppet on a String, and it was a hit in 1967. And of course it immediately flicked into my mind that we have now record train usage, people using trains in record levels since that Puppet on a String was a hit. But so, for all of those reasons, I maintain that rail safety and road safety remains a priority with me and with my department.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know whether to thank the Minister or not for all that repetition. If you're not a puppet on the string, maybe you could outline to this House, was the health and safety of those on board that train actually put at risk by being diverted down that track? And more importantly, can you outline to the House why in the first place they were ever sent there?
Well, the member does raise a very important issue, and let me say I believe that the actions of the train driver on the day were very effective in ensuring that there wasn't any injuries or injury-related consequences. But I think lessons have to be learned, and will be learned, and must be learned by Northern Ireland Railways in respect of that report. That's why I welcome its publication. That's why I agree with the 5 recommendations, and that's what I want to, and I want to see those implemented as a matter of urgency.
McQuarrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answers up to now. The Minister made a statement last week and he referred to some up-and-coming projects, one of which was a public car bike scheme for Belfast. Can you give us some more detail on this, please?
I'm grateful to the member for her question, and indeed I'm a very keen advocate of cycling, and even myself have been engaging in cycling after a period where I lapsed. But I do recommend it. I do recommend it as a healthy pursuit, but also to be environmentally friendly. And of course, my department has been pleased that, in conjunction with the council in Belfast, that we are bringing forward a scheme for bike hire, similar to that which operates in Dublin and other European cities. So I'm a keen advocate of that, and I want to see cycling being actively promoted. In fact, I've taken a decision within the department to create the creation of a dedicated cycling unit so that it can coordinate all aspects of cycling within my department and also within other departments, because I think there are huge benefits within tourism to exploit cycling and to use that. And I'm aware of Giro d'Italia, which is coming to Northern Ireland next year. So we're looking forward to that. And I want to encourage members of this House to take an active part in cycling, and to encourage people within their constituency, particularly young people, because part of it is very much a healthy lifestyle. And I think all of us would do well to remember that and to encourage that.
Ms McQuarrie.
Can I ask the Minister, would there be plans to maybe extend it beyond the city of Belfast to other parts of the north in the future?
Grateful again for the supplementary question, and again, it would be something that I would want to see brought out and extended to other areas. But of course, it's down to available finance. We're fortunate this time that Belfast Council are actively involved in this initiative, and if other councils want to bring forward proposals, then we'll happily look at them and hopefully cooperate.
Mr Hussey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his responses so far. I don't intend to cycle up here from West Tyrone. However, given the obvious success of the World Police and Fire Games, despite lower than expected participant numbers, and other events such as the UK City of Culture in Londonderry and Tenants Vital, how have public transport passenger numbers fared over the summer months?
Well, I'm grateful to the member for his question, and I understand, I think, some of the reasons why he's not keen to cycle from West Tyrone. But let me say that as I've indicated, passenger numbers continue with unprecedented growth. From April to August compared with the same period last year, there have been 184,000 additional journeys on Metro, 198,000 additional journeys on Ulsterbus, and a huge 597,000 additional journeys on railways. So I think all of that is very good news. All of that represents considerable progress. And some people thought and predicted that perhaps wouldn't happen. As Transport Minister, I'm delighted that we've seen those levels of growth. I'm determined that we progress them, and I hope very much that members of this House and members of the Executive will realise the potential that there is for improving public transport and for the healthier lifestyles and the environmental benefits that are so evident in the use of all public transport and indeed cycling.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his response. Does the Minister think there is sufficient recognition of the role public transport plays in tourism?
Well, I think the member raises a very good question indeed. I think there is added potential, I hope very much, for increased usage to events. And we've had the undoubted success of UK City of Culture in Londonderry this year. And I know that real figures on the Londonderry to Coleraine line particularly which is the one that I saved as Minister, despite the previous Minister having wanted to close it. But I just tactfully remind you of that. and I think we've seen huge numbers of people using that, flocking to the very interested and varied events that were part of UK City of Culture. I think other events have also seen an uptake, and I think that's where exploitation can take place. And I think greater coordination between the event organisers in terms of tourism events and other events, I think, is to the benefit of public transport as well.
Mr. Dallett.
Speaker, given that Mr Kennedy is the man who saved the Belfast Derry Railway, does he share my disappointment at the news last week that the second phase of the upgrade has been postponed?
Well, I'm grateful to the member for his question, and I do also recognise his long-standing interest in particularly that stretch of line, that Coleraine to Londonderry line, and he has rejoiced sufficiently and has given me considerable credit for as being the person who to have saved that line, and I think that's a very good thing. But on the point that he raises in terms of yes, I am disappointed, and I frankly say that I am disappointed that that scheme is delayed. But I say it is simply delayed, and it remains a priority for me. It remains a priority for regional development, and it remains a priority for Transland.
Supplementary.
Mr Speaker, I thank the Minister for his answer. Just in view of that, would the Minister agree with me that it might have been more appropriate if the announcement had been made to the DRD committee rather to the press in the first place?
Well, I note the comment made. The chair of Regional Development Committee, I think, is not in his place today. Obviously, it may well be that there will be a reflection on that. Of course, the announcement was primarily made by Translink, who are in charge of the upgrade, and very much I want to stress the fact that whilst there is a temporary setback to it, it is, in my view, only a temporary setback, must only be a temporary setback, and we must proceed as quickly as possible to have that project completed.
That ends the period for topical questions. We now move to those oral questions that have been listed.